It is now 6:05 on Saturday, October 26th, 2024. We're supposed to have a debate arranged with Kevin McCabe here at the Township Hall. So it didn't show. So how we got here, how it started out, I'll kind of explain some of the situation. It's very long. Some people already know Kevin McCabe, realize he's a bad apple, to put it nicely. So this email exchange here from Kevin McCabe, or Mr. McCabe, on Thursday, October 24th, 2024 at 8:50 p.m. To me here at the Township Hall, Jeffrey.Martin@DaltonTownship.org. The subject is debate/inquiry. It reads, "The only person afraid to debate is you, Jeffrey," with an exclamation mark. "You know the subject, ... Anytime, Kevin." All right. I replied on Friday, October 25th, 2024 at 4:01 p.m. I said, "Tomorrow, Saturday, 26th, October 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Township Hall, we'll record a debate video to put on the YouTube channel, Jeff Martin." And so what this is referring to is a couple of different things to explain in there, obviously, right? So one of them is, what is he referring to on debate inquiry? So this is a notice. This is from September 29th, 2024. I put on the township website, DaltonTownship.org or DaltonMI.gov. Did end up getting the .gov arranged eventually. Had proof, we're a government. Sometimes a difficult thing, oddly enough. I've never been able to fully succeed with the Google Maps listing here at the township. Had some major debates with Google. Nevertheless, this debate and inquiry is an offer from me for any debate or inquiry that anyone wants to have. I will read it out. It says, "Life has an overwhelming amount of data. A lot of people reach out to me with their questions about the township, but I know there are many people that don't because other things in life are a higher priority, which makes sense. Over the next week, I'm going to accumulate any questions that people would like answered in videos, because if you have a question, then someone else out there probably does as well, and we might as well make the information accessible for all, contributing in a small way to us having a shared reference frame. There are also many opposing views from the almost 10,000 residents in the township. If anyone would like to have a debate or a discussion of anything, we can arrange to record that at the Township Hall as well. Obviously, it makes sense to have the township as the focus, as it will go on the township YouTube channel. But if you want to veer into anything at other political levels or on other subjects, then I'm open to that in the conversation as well, so be not afraid. Let me know of inquiries you would like answered or debates you would like to have. My direct line at the office is area code 231-332-6700, or email supervisor@daltontownship.org, Jeff Martin." All right. So that's the debate/inquiry that he's referring to in here. And then the subject, right? So what that is referring to is getting access to other people's tax records. All right. And it seems like a weird thing. Like we'd be able to take your tax record of your property that you own and then give it to a Kevin McCabe, especially because we know what Kevin's trying to do, which is to get you in trouble in some way, turn you in for something. So it is a thing that I resist. I think it's unethical, especially in his part. Obviously, he's a bad faith actor. But that's not obvious right at first. It's not obvious if you don't know the situation. So what comes about is I take office a few years ago at this point, obviously. And somewhere in there, Kevin McCabe came up. He's been a hassle for multiple municipalities throughout his entire life in West Michigan, as far as I can tell, at least going decades back. Him and his brothers, I believe. One of his brothers is dead. But he's known for harassing people. He's gotten in a fight where the state police were called with some kids at a park in the village of Lakewood Club at one point. He's harassed the village up there, he's harassed other townships, done all sorts of stuff. I've had reports through the grapevine, people that have seen him, one trustee, of picking up realtor signs and taking them off, apparently stealing realtor signs up in the village, and going around trespassing on people's property, trying to measure windows and then turn them in for not having large enough egress windows and stuff like that. All right. So major issue. how he first came to me is saying that he didn't think the tax assessing was being done correctly. And the assessing records are supposed to be public information. And obviously, I'm big into the Open Meetings Act, right? I've FOIA requested, Freedom of Information Act requested stuff in the United States and in the United Kingdom. Like, I've done Freedom of Information Act requests in 2 different countries successfully and gotten the information that I wanted. Obviously, I do a bunch of stuff with the Open Meetings Act, fully publicly posting the meeting packets, starting the recording and posting of the meetings here at the township. I wrote the resolution for that myself, right? So a lot of release of information, thousands of documents that I've released publicly. He had told me, and I talked to him a lot, there was like a version of a restraining order, but it was more of like a restraining letter from him, from the township hall, because he'll come in, he'll be aggressive and get in people's faces and stuff like that, try to intimidate them. There's apparently that one fight in the park with the kids. And so not good, not cool, right? And I don't have an issue dealing with those things, obviously, but I don't want my staff to have to deal with some of those things. And so especially, when I'm here, I always tell everyone, hey, if you're having a major issue with people, like, let me know, I can take care of it. All right. And so he's one of those people. But I had a bunch of interaction with him, phone calls mostly at first, and he explained he didn't think the assessment was being done correctly. He didn't think his property was being assessed correctly, which I think he sold now. So I'm not even sure if he's a resident. He plays games with where he lives and what he's getting a PRE, private residence exemption on. So he plays like tax games, tries to like fiddle and walk a line. Is he committing tax fraud? Is he not committing tax fraud? I don't know. Right. Then he files false police reports against people and various things. It's amazing. One time he said that we're doing something illegal and he was going to call the cops. And I told him I wasn't going to talk to him again until he called the cops. Took me about 15 minutes to convince him. and he called the cops, and the cop called me and said, Kevin McCabe, he's a waste of time, obviously just trying to harass people, trying to waste township resources, money, time, attention, which he very successfully does, and trying to waste police resources as well. I said, that's true. And that was it. So he does that type of stuff a lot. But I didn't understand that at first. It's not important to know for most people, unless you're really paying attention to the township, which is really only a few dozen people most of the time out of the 9,530 residents that we have, right? So, but if you're actually the executive part of the township, the administration, then obviously these types of things are important. You become very aware of them. So at first, all right, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, say that the township didn't handle him correctly before. He's just trying to make sure his taxes are correct. He wants to compare that to other properties. It's technically public information anyways. Like, let's do it. And there's that thing where when you request something from a government, which I've encountered in the city of Muskegon, I made a joke with someone about, how easy it must be to be the head of a government, right? It's like a nice, easy job. And I said, well, there's a head of whatever government you're at where you are. And they were in the city of Muskegon. And I'm like, there you go. Like, run for mayor. Like, give it a shot. I think it's part of good citizenship, a little book that you can buy on Amazon by Grover Cleveland, former president that I like, known for fighting corruption. And you should participate. I see it as a civic duty. That's why I took this position for 4 years and have served out my 4 years almost, right? And so I was like, go for it. And they were like, I don't know how much it pays, that type of stuff. I'm like, you should just be able to look it up in their budget, right? It's public information. So I look it up, but the way the city of Muskegon does it, you can't actually tell exactly what everyone's salary is. And there's a benefit to that. That's why a lot of times corporations don't publicly post everyone's salary and wages to each other. It's weird that governments do that. So I get it. So I just emailed them, right? Just personally, it's just a personal inquiry, and said, hey, how much does the mayor make? And they said, you have to do a FOIA request. And I was like, I don't think it has to be that big of a deal, just tell me. Like, it's public information. I can get it if I want. And they said, no, FOIA request. All right, fill out the FOIA request. And they said, oh, here's a little detail that's wrong, right? They're trying to resist, and it's annoying. So at that point, I FOIA requested multiple salaries because I became more interested in what must they be hiding, right? And then not a big deal. Turns out the mayor in the city of Muskegon makes $8,600 a year. not enough money to actually live on. So it's a weird little hobby job that you get criticized a lot for. So the people that live there can run for that, go for that if you want. But really, it's the administrator that makes quite a bit of money, right? And so I get it, because we all have that natural tendency. If the government resists a little bit, you wonder, what are they hiding there? And so you like press a little harder. And so, Kevin, I'm like, you can look up your own stuff on BSNA. You have a public kiosk. You can come in for free. You can look up your own tax record card. Cool. Usually if someone requests something like that, we just print it, give it to them, email it to them, whatever. We can technically charge a little bit for the time, for the paper, stuff like this. Not that big of a deal. It's your information. There you go. And sometimes there's a reason that someone is interested in some other piece that they're looking at buying, whatever it may be. That's fairly normal. Realtors will sometimes do it, but they can go through the BSNA software, and then you can pay like $3, I think it is, per record card for different property, right? And so he's really pushing on this thing, saying you're still trying to cover stuff up. It's earlier on in my term, so most people hadn't caught on to the fact that I actually am a decently transparent or uncomfortably transparent for a lot of people, and was working on releasing a lot of information. And so I'm like, that's fine. Like I'll generate the reports or whatever, because you can go up to the county and there's like a kiosk, you can look through it there, and different options on these cards, tax records. And turned out to be a pain. I spent a bunch of time on it, generated tens of thousands of pages on these PDF reports, and uploaded them to a shared drive, send them the link. I'm like, here, you can compare which properties you want, make sure your taxes are correct, right? Being proportionally given out. And the tax system is immensely complex. Everyone knows the income tax system, stupidly complex. Sales tax system, same thing. All the fees, right? All the regulations, all the property taxes, horribly complex. There's the Headley rollback mechanism from the 70s, stupid law. The taxes are horrible. It's a horrible system, right? And messily complex. And then it allows politicians to sell, I'm going to reduce your taxes when they're actually raising your taxes, and they'll get a tax down somewhere for a short period of time while raising a bunch of other things. All these games that can be played in the tax system just grows and grows and grows, and benefits lobbyists and lawyers and politicians and people like that, but not actually the people. It hurts the general public and the general economy, and then our ability as the United States of America, in Michigan, in county, whatever you may be, to compete with the other economic systems, and weakens us. I think in general, the public probably doesn't support that. Nevertheless, that is the monster that is our governmental bureaucracy. And so I get it. I get not liking all this stuff. I get not understanding all of that stuff. Super annoying, super frustrating. So I generate all this, send him a link to that, and then find out a short while later that what he's doing is using that to go around and look at different people's property and then try to report them for violations to the zoning administrator and the building inspector. Well, I don't agree with that. That seems like an East German traitor, communist, fascist type of person to me. And so I absolutely turn off those links, because there's only two people that I stopped communicating with, because you can completely disagree with me on all sorts of stuff. I'm completely fine with that. But there are two people that I've had people stand and yell at me for an hour and a half straight. And I just took it as I got later in my term, I cut people off more, because it's pointless to have that much patience. That's too much patience, right? But there are two people that I cut off responding to. One was Ricky Hobby, who had threatened to kill me a bunch of times. There was 2 years of threatening to kill me. Eventually, they fined him $450 because he left a recording saying he was going to murder some people. And then the other one is Kevin McCabe over that, because he tricked me and used my time and effort and ability or willingness, I guess, to be transparent with government information to attempt to hurt other people and harm other people. And so I turned that information off and let it go for a while. I mean, I'm willing to debate with him. That's what I'm doing here. If he wants to come in and make his case, and he's appealed some stuff to the board. We've had a couple of hearings on that. He's come into a couple of meetings, but just try to harass in different ways and say untrue stuff, try to dox me, reveal personal information, right? He's just trying to intimidate and harass and annoy in various ways. He's not He's not that great at it, right? There's reason I'm in this position because I'm much better at that type of thing in doing something that's actually effective, that's going to get something done and something changed. He's not trying to do that. He's just trying to make people's lives worse. He acts in bad faith. He's just trying to be harmful. It's like you need to be able to understand Cain in the story Cain and Abel, right? So killing Abel didn't benefit Cain. Cain was actually harmed by it, right? He was cursed. But he was willing to cause harm to someone else, even if he got harmed himself, because that type of vengeful attitude is more important, willing to take damage. They're just trying to cause damage, harm, all right? And so Kevin McCabe is like that. And so I cut communication with him, stopped responding to him on stuff, right? It's ridiculous. I don't like that type of thing of trying to use me to get to other people in a bad way, right? And so he had backed off for a while. He goes through like little cycles, essentially. But now he's been hammering a bunch of other people in the office with FOIA requests and then retracting FOIA requests and doing all this weird, screwy stuff to try to say this is in the tax law. He'll send MCLs without references. Everyone freaks out about it. People send it to the lawyer to get opinions there. Massive waste of time and money and resources. It's utterly ridiculous. It doesn't really concern me very much. I don't react to it because I understand I understand the psychology of Cain, essentially, and so that isn't that big of a deal. But that's what he's talking about. So right now he's been hammering on like assessing and that type of stuff to see a printed copy of all tax record cards for every piece of property in the township. And so since I've already been through this with him, you can understand that I understand exactly what he's trying to do, when he's trying to harass the township officials and stuff like that, right? And so hammer on the clerk and the assessor and the admin assistants and this type of stuff for the information, try to send in and report various people for violations, try to get them harassed, try to ruin some lives if you can. And then trying to get all of that paper, to get all the paper copies that he can inspect in some way so that he can then use that to go around to people's property and sometimes trespass. So if you see Kevin McCabe trespassing your property, try to get him arrested if you can. But trying to measure people's egress windows sometimes, apparently, and say, they're an inch or two off, they're in violation, or turn people in for zoning violations or whatever it may be. And so just ridiculous bad stuff. And these bad faith actors in the society, there's no great way to solve that. All right? There's no great way to solve that. And so that's why I make myself available. That's why I've posted several of these types of things and have done them over the last few years for something like debate and inquiry. And if people want to come in, because Kevin McCabe's view on stuff is not a legitimate view, right? It's just trying to cause harm, any harm he can cause. But other people have disagreements with me that are legitimate on which ordinances should change, what is the priority, what's not the priority, what should be budgeted for, what should not be budgeted for, whatever it may be. And so obviously we have those discrepancies, we have those disagreements among the board sometimes. Not the board doesn't vote 100% in the same direction all the time. I usually try to bring stuff for discussion before we're voting on something that I think might be controversial so that discussion can take place and a compromise can occur. And I've made a lot more compromises in this position than what I would like, but that's part of the system. Government is a mass negotiation among the people to remain in a state of peace instead of a state of war. You compromise, right? And so that is what the system is designed for. That's why there's check and balances, separation of powers, the election system to replace a violent revolution. It's a peaceful election, right? That's the idea of our system, which has worked the best out of any society throughout all of human history, I would argue, right? And so America has been this great shining, shining light in the history of humanity. If you study history at all, which most people do not, right? But if you study history at all, it's this great system it's an amazing system. And a lot of the founding fathers were geniuses. It was odd that they were together at the same point in time, in the same place, willing to work together, making a bunch of compromises that they did not all agree with. I don't think anyone was actually happy with the way that anything turned out because it was a massive compromise. Nevertheless, a very unusual moment to have that. A few other times that has occurred, probably 1215 with the Magna Carta in England, that type of stuff. So unusual circumstances that lead to this great thing that not enough people have enough perspective on to have the gratitude that we should have for it. But our system doesn't have a great way to handle these bad faith actors, and I don't know if there is a great way to handle Cain. Right, to handle that perspective, that attitude, and take on life, and just someone with that spirit, essentially. But I mean, my stuff stands. Debate and inquiry is open. Obviously, I am in office for a short period of time. After that, at least you have a decent update on Kevin McCabe and what this debate and inquiry was supposed to be about, and how it led here. So if anyone has anything else, obviously feel free to contact me. My direct line at the office, area code 231-332-6700, or email supervisor@daltontownship.org. Otherwise, this is Jeff Martin signing off. Until next time.